Hi. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Hump day. Woot! A lot of people who have kids, their kids have already returned to school, thankfully, this summer. We have until Tuesday. So my kids are downstairs, and that's where we're at. If they if they wind up interrupting us, that's just what's happening. But they go back next Wednesday, and I can do these without concerns until they're sick on a Wednesday. And that's what happens, right? I want to talk about something that comes up a lot for me as it gives me the heebie-jeebies, all right? And that's when companies are, engagement is the big thing, right? You need to engage your talent. Why? Because disengagement is an epidemic. Gallup polls identify that disengagement is somewhere around 69-70%. And that is costing American companies somewhere between $450 and $500 billion every year. So it's obviously something that causes companies to bleed money. Talent is, no matter if this individual is in a profit center of your company or not, your talent is how your company creates profit, period. Okay? Every single person is there to contribute in some way, whether it's to, make sure that profit centers are supported, or to make sure the customers are supported, or to make sure that everything administratively happens so that there's no interruptions to profit, right, or productivity. Or if you're there to just make sure that there's no extra fees, extra penalties, or if you're there just to make sure that all of the costs are necessary and will provide a return on the investment. It doesn't matter what the role is. You created this role. This is your organization. This role was created for a reason. The company needs it. Although sometimes I hear that people wonder, literally, they wonder why some people are even at work, because they literally do nothing or nothing of value to their perception. And if that's an idea in any of the brains of your employees, then that's a toxin. These ideas that people are not there to help the company and support the company are toxic and contagious. I had never watched before the show on HBO. The name is escaping me now, but it's about the football season. So this year the Browns are being highlighted, and they did a rookie video, and they were talking about how it's contagious. It being, if you're going to overdo it, perform above and beyond in spite of any potential conditions, injuries. And the video is really funny. It made me laugh a lot. Obviously not a Browns fan, Eagles. But but I can appreciate any team and what they have to do in order to perform and win, and the individual players and the coaches and how it's a system and the whole, if you look at it as a whole community and whole, it's like an organism, right? You need all the pieces to work in order for that organism to perform. And then conversely, when they were playing the Eagles and they went through that game and somebody stopped running, Jarvis maybe, he stopped running for the ball. And so Jarvis is saying in the midst of it, his coach is yelling at him. And he's like, that was overthrown. That was out of bounds. I could see it already, so I stopped running. And the coach is like, yeah, but you stopped running, and now the next guy is going to stop running. So that's contagious too. And if somebody has these thoughts, there have been many times that I've been turned off to opportunities that I was currently in because somebody else was pointing out negative things about it. I've become a little more resilient to that, but even though I'm aware of it and I'm resistant to it impacting my opinion of something, it really does take a level off, of something that I could perceive as being really great. Now, some of these opportunities weren't the right ones for me anyway, but, when you're in an organization and employees talk to each other and they start pointing out things that maybe were not in the awareness of the other people, and now suddenly everybody's kind of like, oh yeah, you're right. You know, he does tend to favor the people who have fitness regimens, or, wow, I never noticed before, but now that you say it, I am starting to see that, this so and so gets a little bit extra leniency around arriving on time, and these are things that kill engagement. Okay, so it's not like we don't want to create an environment where people are afraid to express their opinions and themselves, because that has its own negative consequences. But they need an outlet. They need somebody who they can talk to about that, who can help them sort it out, and there needs to be like a, hey, please come to me first. If you ever had a problem with a friend, but you didn't find out that there was a problem with that friend until you found out from another friend that friend had a problem, then you know what I'm talking about. Okay? You know that you're like, oh, I had no idea that I'd done something to upset this person, and you wished that the person would have just told you directly, but instead, obviously this person was upset and sharing that information with so-and-so and so-and-so, and then you're like wondering, like, if they would have come to me directly, then maybe I could have explained that wasn't my intention, and this person wouldn't have been in such a state of upset for so long, and my reputation wouldn't be ruined by this person going out and saying all these things to other people. And we have some issues around communication, as a human race, where we're not all necessarily confident in our abilities to directly address somebody and have that go well. And we're also sometimes not experienced in the, we don't always have the experience of that going well. So that kills our confidence. A lot of the times the communications that we have that are direct backfire, and therefore we are discouraged from doing that. And we don't necessarily consciously see it as this, but sometimes you can really see how you might unconsciously want to tell other people because you want it to get back to that person. And that sometimes seems like the only way to create a resolution that you want, because you want that other person to change or to have done something or to apologize, and maybe until they're feeling that sense of shame, you feel like they won't, if you tell them directly, they won't give it any credence. But if you tell this person and that person, and then there's this social pressure, maybe they'll feel a little bit differently about it. I mean, we could look at some very current events, right? To see how that could be true. And for anybody who's watching this far, far in the future, the current event that I'm talking about is the flag at half staff for John McCain, and that's all I'm really going to say about that. But how peer pressure eventually did change that. But I think it was people telling him directly, not necessarily, but it could be people that he trusted. He needed to hear it from the people that he trusted before he would make the change, perhaps. I don't know. I wasn't on the inside of that, thankfully. But that's something that if you're looking at engagement, improving engagement, there needs to be some kind of system around that. And again, there needs to be a safe, open container for people to share this feedback in, and a safe forum where it can be sorted out. And as I've shared before, a company that listens is awesome. A company that has empathy as a core value is awesome. But empathy and listening aren't action. Okay, action is in compassion. Compassion is in action. So empathy plus action equals compassion. Or empathy plus action equals compassion. Empathy plus compassion equals action? No. Anyway, you have to do more than just listen. You have to actually change things. You have to say, okay, maybe I do as a manager tend to favor the people who, I can invite to go play racquetball with me. And, we build a better rapport, we build a better relationship. They are able to influence me into certain things better than other people, so I listen to them more. And so you have to be able to confront that as a manager without any consequences for the person who shared it. And if there's an environment where if I share this feedback with my manager, there could be potential consequences for me. And I think of, I'm going to share a guilty pleasure of mine, but The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, either one. There's always that one person who's not there for the right intention, and then somebody else is the whistleblower, and the whistleblower always goes home. They always go home because the whistleblower is suddenly, petty. Like there's this perception that like, oh, well, you might be right, but, and you might be saying it for the right intentions, but perhaps there's that little hint of jealousy, or, maybe there's some negative emotions running around, and then there's a judgment about that. And this is all subconscious, on a subconscious level, but these things happen. This is human nature, how we operate sometimes. So there has to be, new awarenesses even around, if now suddenly you have a bias against this person because they were the person who shared this feedback. So there has to be protection around anonymous feedback too, because these things are subconscious sometimes. We can't just prevent them. So that's one thing that I've been thinking a lot about in terms of engagement, that when I have been fully engaged in a job or really highly engaged in a job, it's not until, somebody says, and I've been a consultant, and it's not until sometimes another consultant will say, do you ever notice, as a consultant, they're not blah, 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 blah. And I'd be like, no, but then once somebody says something, it's like you kind of notice it. And, and once you notice it, you can't unnotice it. Even if you disagree that it's there, you can't unnotice it. Now it's on your mind. Now the things that everything that you take in with your senses is in this, perspective of looking for that. So it affects it no matter what. And that's something culturally that some people need to be trained about too. And trained in a way, and this is like, this could be a trap too, because trained in a way where it's not that they're discouraged to share their feelings, or discouraged that, again, that they're, it has to be presented in a way like, this is for everybody's highest good, and it's for your highest good. Like, we want to know your feedback. We want to know how you feel about things, and if you notice things, like, tell us first, because we're all here to essentially bring home income or revenue. If your company needs to bring home revenue, you need to bring home income. It's supposed to be that kind of symbiotic relationship. But at the same time, hopefully you're there for some kind of mutual greater purpose too. Hopefully. Doesn't always happen, I know. But it can happen. And if you're not there, contact me. I'll help you get aligned with a company who will have a mission that engages you. And so that's obviously another thing, right? Being engaged in the mission. Sometimes people are willing to sacrifice things for themselves because the mission is so important to them. That's something greater than themselves that they're willing to sacrifice. And I think that's a fuel that companies like Tesla have been leveraging. They demand a lot of their employees in terms of hours and output, and lack of work-life balance, and it's all for the greater purpose. If they hire somebody who has the mutual mission, then that's kind of like a fuel that feeds them, gives them a little extra boost of energy when normally the energy be running out, which it does a lot of times anyway, because we have human limits. But another engagement trap that I want to just cover really briefly is benefits. There's a panel discussion that's happening next month. I didn't speak up and say this, but I hope that I'm on it, because I want to be able to make sure that whatever misconceptions there are around engaging people with benefits, that they're dispelled. And the task force meeting that I was at on Friday, I think there were a lot of voices who echoed the same thing, that the golden handcuffs. I saw an image of somebody recently, some kind of probably business coach, who's preaching to people to that independent financial independence. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, because that's something that a lot of people want, and it's possible in many different ways. And I have no idea if it was even a credible way to do it. So, I'm not saying anything bad about it, but golden handcuffs, there was an image of him with golden handcuffs. And it was a very powerful image because I use the term golden handcuffs quite a bit because I have a lot of clients coming to me from companies that have excellent benefits. And the reason why they haven't changed so far is because of the benefits. And they fear, that if they make a change, they're going to lose these benefits, which are so good. And some companies that are still providing pensions, just a few. And how I've changed my mind about pensions a lot. My dad had a pension from his company that he worked at for 30 years or something like that, and they took it away because he lived too long. I think the expectation is now that you're not going to work for the same company for all your career. At least that's an expectation that I especially feel like the kids who have watched their parents go through this last economic recession are learning that you're not going to get financial security from a company. And if you can get financial security from a company, then that's highly valuable. It's like they're flipping a little bit. So the millennials, very engaged in mission, values, social responsibility, perks, benefits, fun, I'm sorry, not benefits, but perks, fun, flexible working schedules, while this newer generation has been impacted by their parents who have been laid off, and they saw how their parents work hard. Their parents did everything they said that they were supposed to, that people told them they were supposed to. They went and they got an education, they worked hard, they worked for promotions, and then they got maybe into a middle management position that was eliminated. And it's like, where's the reward? Where's the reward for that? Why would that be a way I want to go? So some of them will seek financial freedom and stability by being entrepreneurs. And some of them will demand that their company show them some kind of way that they can provide stability for their own life and their own future families or current families. And I worry that that's going to eliminate the purpose and passion-driven career. And purpose and passion are huge engagement keys. And benefits sometimes keep people in jobs that aren't the right jobs. And that's not good for the employee because they could potentially be doing something where they would be more successful and be happier. And it's not good for the company because the company could have somebody who's more engaged in that role, more engaged in a level that benefits can't touch. So I'm going to be writing some blogs. There was a lot of great topics that were produced out of that task force meeting last Friday, and I'm excited to write about them. I pretty much have the next 8 weeks of blogs topics scheduled. And I also ask for you to vote. So if you please, at some point, go to my blog at epiccareering.com/blog, or if you follow me here, then I share it on Thursdays now. Since I do this Wednesday, I share my blog on Thursday on Facebook, and also share it on LinkedIn. So those are places where you can read and comment. I'd like you to comment. I want you to vote on which of these topics is really most valuable to you so that I can triage the topics that I write and bring you the most important ones to you in the order that's the best. Please weigh in on your ideas about engagement. What in your job has caused you to feel disengaged? And it could be gradual, or it could be instant. It could be suddenly you have this pit in your stomach. Now you know something you can never unknow. And that's like the beginning of the end. I'd love to hear that. I'd love to hear those stories, even privately. You can direct message me, and I'd love to hear those stories. They don't have to be long, or you can go into depth if you want. But let me know. And if you are somebody who's a manager and you have had that experience where the employee didn't come to you directly, you kind of found out around the loop, let me know. Or if you wonder, and if there are whisperings that are impacting how everybody feels about you or the company now, let me know. That's the time to bring in a consultant and coach. Okay? All right. Till next week.